the story of our world every day. Listen and your heart may open up. If ever you feel frightened of our world that's washed away, a mother is a mother, come to us. Women, 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 women. Women sew the fabric of our world every day. History of violence made it through. The stories that we share will live on, and so we say these truths are our gifts passed on to you, women.
Welcome to tonight's hashtag 101 nights. We have 30 more nights to deploy our creativity and storytelling to get out the vote. I'm Julia Alvarez, co-founder with Lisa Labo of the Scheherazade Project. Back on July 25th, we launched our project inspired by the master storyteller Scheherazade, who told tales for 1,001 nights to save herself and the women in her kingdom from a cruel and misogynist ruler. Down the ages, Scheherazade has been an inspiration for women artists, activists to use their art to promote social justice and transformative change. Beginning on July 25th for 101 nights before Election Day, November 3rd, we present you with one of our storytellers, showcasing diverse and talented artists to inspire others to use their talent and creativity in the most important way: vote. We set out to have at least 101 women artists share their stories. With your help, we have grown well beyond that. Just as we'd imagined, the stories are opening hearts and minds. Tonight, we, Scheherazade sisters, bring us together with our next story.
Tonight's featured artist is poet Jane Hirshfield, named among the modern masters by the Washington Post. She's the author of 9 poetry books, including Ledger and The Beauty. Her honors include fellowships from the Guggenheim and Rockefeller Foundations, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Academy of American Poets, and Best Book of the Year selections from the Washington Post, San Francisco Chronicle, and England's Financial Times. A former chancellor of the Academy of American Poets, Hirshfield's poems appear in The New Yorker, The Atlantic, The Washington Post, The Times Literary Supplement, The Guardian, The New York Review of Books, Poetry, and 10 volumes of the best American poetry. In 2019, she was elected into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. It's an honor to bring you Jane Hirshfield.
I'm Jane Hirshfield. I'm speaking to you from Mill Valley, California. I'd like to talk a little bit before I read some poems, thinking about the Scheherazade story itself. The original story is about seduction by story and also education by story. It's about how the hunger to know what happens next can preserve a life, 2 lives. First, the life of Scheherazade herself, but then also the king's life, whose heart surrenders its bitterness, surrenders its anger, and reawakens first to curiosity and then to love. Stories change us, and that original story is a story about risking connection. Scheherazade, in the face of violation and death, offers a gift, one that needs both a giver and a receiver, as all gifts do. Hers is a story of how vulnerability and desperation can make us wise. Now is a time when we need the wisdom of the vulnerable and the inventiveness and the courage of the powerless. We have a choice: to surrender our lives to a state of terror, or to find the openness of heart that might carry us through the most desperate of times, through separation and illness, through broken justice, through truth's pillage, and through the earth's pillage, without giving up our curiosity, our imaginations, our allegiance to beauty, our allegiance to hope. So long as we want to know what happens next more than we want the illusory safety of separation, we will be taking the side of life in all of its dapplings and weathers. So long as we're able to invent a new image of what might happen next, we have a chance to change what might happen next. So I'd like to dedicate the 3 poems I'm about to read to the hope that love, curiosity, and the hunger for stories that are multiple, many-roomed, and varied might prove stronger than the despair and greed and bitterness, separation, fear, and anger that have so marked these last 4 years. I offer them with one request: that you vote November 3rd for a future of stories, of birdsong and fish flash and leaf rustle, and of our own human hubbub, welcoming into this world's mutual shelter every possible life. In a former coal mine in Silesia. In a former coal mine in Silesia, 1,000 feet inside the earth, a tongue kept speaking. In the Arctic, by the triangular door to the Svalbard seed vault, a tongue, almost fearless, almost not clumsy, spoke. Spoke verbs, conjunctions, adjectives, adverbs, nouns. In a small town in the Australian outback, in the city of Nanjing, near a gate still recalling unthinkable closures, by a lake in Montana, a tongue almost steady, almost not stumbling, spoke facts, hypotheses, memories, riddles, stories. Lungs accept their oxygen without trembling. Feet stand inside their foot shapes, inside shoes someone has sewn. We close the eyes of the dead so they will not see their not seeing. Light falls on the retina's stubbornness, on pupils refusing to turn toward or away. Fireflies, furnaces, quicksilvers fill them, cities and forests glinting, though already finished. And the tongues, the faithless tongues, continue speaking, as lovers will, because they still love. Long past the hour there is nothing left to say. This next is a very short poem of protest. Obstacle. This body, still walking. The wind must go around it. The poem does have other possible meanings, but today that is what I choose for it to mean. And for the last poem I'll read you, this is a poem written on the 5th day of the current administration, the day that the White House took down from its website all information about climate change and ordered all scientists who work for the federal government not to speak of their research in public without prior authorization. The original imagination Julia Alvarez had for the Scheherazade project was that we would each be standing outside the White House. And I read this poem because I did read it to the White House. I read it at the first March for Science in April 2017 on the Washington Mall, with the Washington Monument behind one shoulder, the White House far ahead in the distance, and between us something like 40 or 50,000 people, all assembled simply to defend allegiance to truth, allegiance to science, allegiance to fact. On the fifth day, the scientists who studied the rivers were forbidden to speak or to study the rivers. The scientists who studied the air were told not to speak of the air, and the ones who worked for the farmers were silenced, and the ones who worked for the bees. Someone from deep in the Badlands began posting facts. The facts were told not to speak and were taken away. The facts, surprised to be taken, were silent. Now it was only the rivers that spoke of the rivers, and only the wind that spoke of its bees, while the unpausing factual buds of the fruit trees continued to move toward their fruit. The silence spoke loudly of silence, and the rivers kept speaking of rivers, of boulders and air. Bound to gravity, earless and tongueless, the untested rivers kept speaking. Bus drivers, shelf stockers, code writers, machinists, accountants, lab techs, cellists kept speaking. They spoke the fifth day of silence. Thank you, those who have made this project possible. Thank you, those who listen. Thank you, all who speak.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If our featured artists inspire you to share a story of your own, everyone, all genders, can help the grassroots spread. Post your literary, visual, or performing arts on Instagram or Twitter with hashtag 101 nights. You don't have to be the featured artist to join the movement. Please spread the word. Inspire voters, activists, community organizers to join the sisters by using their creativity from any and all social platforms to get out the vote. Together, we can and will bring about the transformative change this country and the world needs. Like Scheherazade, we can use the power of our arts to save our communities, our country, and our global home. Get out the vote, get out and vote, get out and help others vote. We sisters thank you.
Women sew the fabric of our world every day. History of violence made it through. The stories that we share will live on, and so we say these truths are our gifts passed on to you. Women.